Spies, action, ninjas, explosion, parties, girls. Club Penguin had it all. And during my years in Club Penguin, I would gain it all. Power, respect, and women. My first girlfriend, my first heartbreak, my first crushing defeat. All occurred during my journey of Club Penguin. It was 2007. Club Penguin mania was hitting the schools. Kids didn't walk, they waddled. Penguin bars saw an unexpected profit, and the club merchandise was on everything from lunchboxes to condoms. Of course, there never was an official club condom. It didn't really have any use for the kids playing, and definitely didn't have any use for the adults playing. Originally, it was just a chat room with penguin avatars, so the gameplay would have ended when you had every conversation. When I played Club Penguin, there was around 10 minigames and a spy campaign. Up to 400 hours of gameplay, if you counted the 380 hours of trying to tip the iceberg. The game is a kids MMO set on an island. You play as a penguin trying to make your way through life and have a good time. There was so much to do. I live in a small island, and there certainly isn't upwards of 8 minigames to play here. Mountains of content for a children's flash game. And it lasted much longer than the average children's flashing game, with less prison time too. All the time there were new updates, bringing new content, fixing bugs, and brand new features. Because unlike the real world, the people in charge really did care about improving the general experience. Unlike the real world, you can enjoy this all completely free. And unlike the real world, it was penguins instead of people. I spent prime years of my life playing Club Penguin. Well, a prime year, I was 7. Yes, I was a penguin clubber. Not the kind covered in penguin mind, the kind with penguin on the mind. It started as all good things do, with creating an account. To make an account, you needed parental permission. This must have really annoyed the 30-year-old players. I mean, come on, it annoyed me. I was a 7-year-old who grew up in the wild west of the internet. My Pornhub account was old enough to do this stuff I needed. Parental support meant using the parents' email and the terms and conditions being read in full at a painstaking pace. I don't think my dad ever appreciated the Club Penguin newsletter like I would have. The password was next. You had to be careful here. Using the wrong password could spell disaster, which was bad, unless your password was disaster, like mine was, and is now. My cybersecurity has always remained at the same level, or should I say capital L, Evil, exclamation mark 1. Just ask all those guys in Nigeria using my Steam account. The next step is the most important, the username. How the rest of the island was going to perceive me. I chose a username exactly as cunning as my password. But exactly as cunning as my password was taken, so I chose disaster to avoid confusion. Maybe not as clever as I intended, but the cunning part of your brain only develops after your first heartbreak, and that comes later in the story for me. The last step in the penguin creative process was the colour of the penguin. A chance to be unique in one of 14 ways, with my options being one of the 8 boys' colours. Colour wasn't just a spot on the light spectrum. Colours are one of the 3 things you can have a hard opinion on as a kid when you aren't old enough to have proper racist views. And there are boys' colours and girls' colours. I couldn't let my gender be questioned by picking any of the good-looking colours. TV had repeatedly informed me that this was bad. How else could I play football and like video games? I'd spend way too much time in the boys' locker room to throw it all away now by making a yellow penguin. My wacky child imagination chose a default black penguin, what I imagined a penguin looks like, which may come across as digital blackface. But it was a different time. Everyone was doing it. Some of my best penguin friends are black. When dropped into an MMO, what do you do first? If walking in on my cousin playing GTA 5 on my Xbox was anything to go by, I should go to the strip club first. But the Penguin nightclub had no strippers. Or maybe they did, it's hard to tell. I was like a penguin in a Brazilian racetrack. Lost. It was like picking something on Netflix to watch. Spoilt for choice, you end up just waddling through the options before inevitably picking the sitcom you've already seen 5 times. For Club Penguin, this sitcom was fishing, a game I could always come back to after a hard day's school. Fishing was joined by jetpacking, surfing, ninja fighting, spy espionage, pizza making, sled racing, puffle rounding, truck offloading, minecarting, with much more, as well as additional stuff always being added. On top of this, there was a penguin's lifestyle and appearance to maintain. These dance moves are still credited as major inspirations for my current repertoire. This was all before I knew I could just Google the answer to everything and my brain still had a function. With no strategy guide, gamer FAQ, or action replay, I was forced to get good nerd. Mastery of this game would take many moons. Luckily, the day-night cycle was very short. Before I had Facebook, my main source of friends I didn't know was on the club. No sign of intelligent life anywhere. It's not hard to believe that these are the people who would grow up to become Twitch chat and YouTube commenters. Public messaging was simple. You could type whatever you wanted, if you were willing to face the consequences. But of all locations to visit and tasks to perform, the tipping of the iceberg was paramount to the experience, and where the majority of penguin time would be spent, because there was a theory that drilling into one end of the iceberg would flip it, and so the people drilled. The persistence of effort in the face of results was outstanding. The collective human time trying to tip the iceberg could have been reallocated to curing cancer or murdering all the slow walkers. The tactics were thus: people drilled on the far right or the far left. Any form of centrist drilling, or not drilling at all, was met with harsh criticism from everyone, both sides hurling obscenities at each other and denouncing them as counterproductive, and both sides were entirely useless, modelling the current political climate we see today. If it could be moved or not, I had crashed into the tip of this iceberg theory and sunk many hours into the great project of our time. During my time drilling, the club installed capitalistic beliefs on me. Just like real life, Club Penguin had the dirty, horrible peasants and the well-to-do, respectable members, separated by society and a $3.99 a month membership. Members enjoyed many benefits over the peasant penguins. Almost all of them were cosmetic, but they certainly hoited and toited it over us. After seeing the average penguin being held down by a system designed to exclude people like me, I knew I had to be a member. This was during the financial crisis. The $3.99 a month membership did not fit in the budget. My penguin was also hit hard. Coins were short and I was forced to liquidate most of my assets, including my second igloo in the Maldives. But that was more because of the climate crisis. $3.99 is more money than you thought there was as a kid. For context, $3.99 was around $8 or 6 euros at the time. And for context now, £3.99 is around $3.99 or 3.99 euros. And for anyone watching in the future, the pound was New China's currency back when it was called Great Britain. But back in 2007, how was I going to procure $3.99? Going around selling lemonade doesn't work when you live on a farm with no neighbours and you don't know how to make lemonade. The whole operation was cursed. I would never convince my dad to give credit card details to a penguin, but I could convince my mum to make several $10.99 Club Penguin book purchases, because playing a game is recreational, but buying a book to unlock in-game content is educational. I was moving up in the world. It was around this time when I saw her for the first time. My ping fluttered and my game skipped a tick. I could tell just by looking at her, she was trouble when she walked in. Her name was Trouble When I Walk In. There was a snowball fight going on in the ice rink, and we had found ourselves targeting each other for some time and continued to hurl snow at each other long after the battle concluded. This is about as flirtatious as it gets in the club. And then she was gone, but I knew we were destined to cross paths again. At the time, I was smitten with what was definitely a fine lady on the other side of that screen. But in the present, this beautiful girl was equally as real as the 40-year-old man behind the penguin. It's Schrodinger's child molester. If he was a crook, then he was playing very hard to get. A bold tactic. Maybe Club Penguin wasn't the CP he was looking for, but the one he needed all along. He was never going to get me anyway. I didn't have a phone or social media. The only camera I possessed was on my DSi, and I don't think the pictures would have turned out well. It isn't easy. It's not like catching a Pokemon. The chance of them running away is much higher, and unlike Raikou and Entei, on the third encounter the police show up. Beating a child does help increase the chance of capture, but the hospital isn't just going to revive your 6 dying children with no questions asked. Honestly, if he had pulled it off, he deserved the bounty. But my simple mind was far too in the clouds to have any of these rational thoughts. Trouble When I Walk In was perfect in every way. I needed to show just how successful of a penguin I could be, and then she would want to be mine. And success came from the most unlikely of places. Cousin Ben was tall. Cousin Ben's nickname was Big Ben. The origin of Cousin Ben's nickname is lost to time. He occasionally was placed in charge of babysitting me. He was chosen for this task due to his skill in demanding the least amount of money. Babysitting involved overseeing me play the club for 3 hours without blinking. I was completely oblivious to the outside world. All that matters was the club. Maybe it was out of love, maybe it was out of kindness, maybe it was the same reason you let the dogs eat the scraps from your plate. Like a gift bestowed from the heavens, he pulled out his bank card and granted me membership status, and went on his way to babysit me by falling asleep playing Call of Duty in our living room. What a hero. Not that I noticed, I was a member and things were coming up Charlie. I had the swagger, but could I get the skills? They never taught us the important things in school. They taught us about safe sex and paying taxes, but being a Club Penguin player makes both those issues irrelevant. One lesson of how to catch the big fish using the small fish would have frankly saved an embarrassing amount of time. Finding the knowledge wasn't easy. To decipher a helpful message from the public chatter would require 8 behavioural qualifications I didn't have. Using the books purchased for me and the mass wealth I was accruing in puffles and coins, I figured out how to get good. Card Jitsu wasn't more than a game within a game. That's exactly what it was. It was literally rock, paper, scissors with numbers. By steady grinding, I worked my way up to black belt, earning respect from sensei and my peers. I had also just finished my campaign as a super spy. What does a spy penguin do? Who's going to maintain a surveillance state? Penguins need their civil liberties breached too. Who's going to stop the monstrous Herbert P. Bear and the dastardly Al-Qaeda? I had saved the entire island, I was a black belt, and I was minted. In Club Penguin, first you get the membership, then you get the power, then you get the women. I knew she meant business when she came into the Lighthouse. This time it wasn't as obvious, but Trouble When I Walk In locked a cursor on me and was not holding up. We spent the whole evening together, shared a seaweed pizza, walked along the beach. I invited her back to my igloo, which was decked out head to toe in membership items. This sealed the deal. We sat on the floor, exchanged heart emojis, and she asked, UPF? To which I responded, UGF? It was official. I had my first girlfriend. I was becoming the Emperor Penguin. Not only did I have a membership, not only did I lie about having a golden puffle and tipping the iceberg, but I had a Club Penguin girlfriend. At least to myself, I was the coolest person in school, and yourself was the most important person to convince. I was losing myself in the character. My sleep paralysis demon had changed from a green alien to a green penguin. I was eating more like my character. I was becoming a more shellfish person. I was going full penguin, which had many benefits. Penguins never had to eat vegetables, my chances of being knighted in Norway somehow increased, and you're only ever one bow tie away from formal wedding attire. I was soaring, but penguins are flightless birds. The age-old passage still applies to them and emus. What comes up must come down. The automatic renewal of my membership was declined. The card was maxed. A polyester jacket had robbed me of my life of luxury. I believed Ben was too big to fail. Nobody was bailing him out, and it was the little penguins like me who were going to suffer. Capitalism had got me again. Money can't buy you happiness, but it can buy you a Club Penguin membership. The next best thing. Not living the life of luxury was not the worst, but it unveiled how empty everything was. At least I still had Trouble When I Walk In. But where was she? It had been days since we last interacted, and days plus one since we first met. In my appreciation of the club life, I forgot to appreciate the life. She was missing, and I needed to find her. This wouldn't be the same without my GF. This penguin had clearly stirred emotions in me. Was there something deeper? I mean, was there love here? Was it possible for this to be love? What is the meaning of love? Did I develop a penguin fetish? Researching r/34 penguins, they are far less sexy than I'd hoped.
Disappointed!
When I went to the zoo to be aroused by some fishy birds, it's the elephants and gorillas that stirred feelings in me, not the penguins. And those were feelings of awe and monkey. I didn't even find the sexy penguins from Happy Feet sexy. And they knew what they were doing there.
Like it? It's very generous.
Finally, after reading this very informative article on reasons not to have sex with a penguin, I have chosen not to pursue this issue further and declare myself penguin fetish free, despite the feelings I once had for this particular player. These were lines of questioning I would have to pursue alone. When the money ran out, the honey went running. I had checked every room and every server. My sweetheart was gone. Who was going to believe I had a Club Penguin girlfriend now? With no companionship and no membership, the colour was drained from the world. Seaweed pizza had lost its tang, fishing had lost its thrill, and I stopped believing I could tip the iceberg. After waddling the servers alone, and one too many late nights at the nightclub, it was time to move on. The pain was simply too much. I deleted my account and left the club forever, never to be seen again. And I never played online games again. For a week, when I got really into Learn to Fly. I was on a penguin thing, as you can tell. Not a fetish for me though, we established that.